So we're on. Um, yeah, welcome to our little morning show with me, Bruno, and Vladimir, and we're just gonna talk some interesting stuff. Hopefully, maybe some philosophy. Do you want to show people your poster, Vladimir?
Why not?
About his this is Vladimir's English speaking community in Russia. His English speaking club. What kinds of things do you talk about in your club? So maybe you can tell people like what kinds of topics you do.
The last time it was solitude and politeness last week, and basically, I wouldn't say that there was something interesting, just banal, trivial things. But solitude, I probably think solitude was, I told a story about my personal experience, how I discovered these ideas of solitude,
Okay.
and I was introduced to them quite lately, like 2007. Yeah, I read this guy Osha. Have you heard Osha?
No, I don't think so. Is he a Russian writer?
No, he's not rare. He's Indian, and
Oh, okay. Haven't heard of him.
he kind of mystic. I mean, this guru. I don't know how they call him, but
Hmm.
he was kind of Indian philosopher, and then he moved to America and created the whole movement. He made some religious and scientific and philosophical uh, contribution to. Well, it's hard to do. Like I didn't read a lot of Osho. I just read this one book, Dynamic Meditation. It was called, and in this book, basically he suggested that you have like you do certain actions, you learn to think, you learn
Yeah.
to meditate. It's like this whole idea of solitude. It actually came to me when I was in need of it. So I mean, for me, it was really necessary to forget about what was going on around and just focus on myself, because I wasn't like paying attention to myself for a very long time. I was so always engaged in some extra activities, and then this book helped me just to focus on like what was going on inside. And I started practicing meditation and solitude. Now, there was a funny story I may tell you. There was a monk,
Hmm.
and it was from this book, Dynamic Meditation. There was a monk, and once a night, devil came to him and said that at morning all water will be poisoned.
Okay.
And this monk, he just decided to go to the spring and get as much water as possible. And at the morning, it actually happened. So all water was poisoned, and everybody got crazy. Who drank this water? They just got crazy. And this guy, he only stayed normal. But for all of them, for the rest of people, just he uh, appeared crazy, and he was drinking his water for like as much as he could. And then his friends came to him and said, like, like everybody thinks that you're crazy, and you have to do something with that. And he tried to explain them that they are drinking like poisoned water, and it was poisoned by devil. But he couldn't listen to what he said, and eventually he decided that like to kill him. But before they actually wanted to execute their decision, he said, okay, I'll just cure myself. And he got and drank water and became a normal guy of a normal society, and everybody was happy. It's kind of
So
metaphor.
he
Yeah,
joined
yeah, and
the.
it's like it's very interesting in parallel with my experience. It was the time when iPhones came across, and I didn't buy a phone. Like I decided to stay away from that. And everybody bought like these iPhones,
Yeah.
and yeah, and it had a strange impact on my personal experience. Like I'm kind of weirdo. Just like not using iPhone, trying to do some to live in a kind of minimalistic style. So
It's
basically,
funny because I did the same thing, you know. I
Mhm.
didn't get a smartphone for a couple of years.
It's like I never get.
Oh, you still don't have it?
Yeah, I don't have.
Oh wow, you resisted a lot longer. I got one, I think it was about 4 years ago I got one.
Mhm.
But yeah, before, I had just a regular phone, and people would look at me like, "Hey, man, haven't you heard? Now we have
Mhm.
smartphones."
Mhm.
But yeah, I didn't even want to get a smartphone. It's just for a matter of convenience, I ended up getting one. But I mean, it has changed people's lives, right? Having a smartphones for sure has changed people's lives and the way they interact with each other.
Yeah, and it's kind of, for example, when I see people walking around and always looking at their smartphones, like for me, it's kind of, I think that they aren't aware what's going on, like that this thing basically controls what's going on in their minds.
Yeah, no, it
Like
does
this
for sure.
this this movie which you recommended, it was Social Dilemma, I guess.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. Well,
you were
that's one
talking about.
discussion that I still want to have. I've been wanting to have that since I watched the documentary. I want to talk
Mhm.
about maybe that's what we can do this
Yeah,
next Friday,
sure.
like talk about the documentary and the issues that it raises.
I watched one video where this documentary was criticized by some German philosopher, and
Hmm.
basically his points were that even though it stresses, it simplifies things. So one point was that it simplifies things. Another point just that even it tells you that like you are controlled by media, but still it's a product made by media, made by
Hmm.
Netflix,
Yeah,
who actually take advantage from you being like using these technologies and always being on the internet on
true.
mining
Yeah.
mining data.
It's a different kind of media though. I mean, the point is valid that he's making, sure, but it's Netflix is not really social media. It's part of the phenomenon of like modern media for sure, but it's not really what they're talking about in the documentary, right? Because they're talking about social media, which is
Like
it's
Facebook
I
and
feel that
Google.
Netflix lacks a lot of the elements of social media,
Mhm.
don't you think?
Yeah, but still, I guess their main purpose just to keep you on the platform, right?
Hmm.
Netflix,
Yeah,
Facebook,
that's true.
YouTube.
They
Yeah,
have that
yeah.
element for sure. But for like one of the biggest elements of social media, I think, is that it's not top down, right? It's not content that is prepared by a committee of people.
Mhm.
They don't prepare the content for you and vet it, and like it's not something that is prepared by professionals, right? Social media is just and then you have different types of social media, different platforms, but it's really just people's input, right? So, and that is especially apparent in terms of information. It's very different. The information that you get from the New York Times is going to be very different from the information you get from some dude on YouTube. And
Mhm.
I mean, it can be a very prepared YouTube person, like there are some people on YouTube that are knowledgeable, and maybe it's something that is well prepared, but the vast majority of stuff on YouTube is, especially when it comes to information, it's really just complete garbage. It's just people that make it up. It's certainly not at the level of something like the New York Times, or any other professional newspapers. So yeah, Netflix doesn't have that problem. The content that you have on Netflix is obviously, it's professionally prepared. So I think that's a pretty key element of social media that, for example, Netflix doesn't have.
Mhm. So
And
there
and
are
in
lots of trash on YouTube and Facebook and social media,
oh
but
yeah,
Netflix provides you with quality information.
oh yeah,
Right.
for sure. I mean, there's lots.
Yeah, but still, it's like you became so addicted
Yeah,
to that
true.
so fast.
So,
And
yeah, yeah, for sure. I think it's, yeah, that element is definitely true for, but that's not social media, right? That's media in general.
yeah,
But media is very, there are some elements of social media that are common to other types of media like Netflix for sure, which is this, they have these, all these, artificial intelligent mechanisms, this, these like algorithms that are designed to keep you engaged at all times, spend the most amount of time possible just, consuming, right?
yeah,
Consuming their
yeah.
content and not doing anything else. And that's certainly that. That's how Netflix works, really, right? They just want you to stay in front of the TV as long as possible.
Yeah, I wonder how it's going to be like in 10, 15 years. Even like on a broad scale, like for example, what I'm observing that they're almost like, even I myself, I don't have, such a strong addiction to media, to social media, but still I spent like pretty like maybe half of my day like doing something on the internet.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's not consuming but producing. So I'm trying to write something, to create my own stuff, but still it's so addictive. And then I think from this side that, oh, if I'm producing something, I also kind of become a part of this whole mechanism, so I just attract more people to the platform. And basically, like,
Yeah, maybe we can do, in the, philosophy club discussion later this week. We can do, social dilemma. I think that would be, um, an interesting conversation.
I
Um,
think I'll send you this video which I watched, since I watched it
yeah,
like
yeah, that would be
a,
awesome. Yeah.
a month ago, and probably we may also discuss it later, maybe after I
Yes,
watch.
I think that that's great because then we have not just the perspective of the video or of the documentary, but we also have a critique
Yeah,
of that piece.
yeah.
So I think
Do,
that,
do, don't 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 you think that in like next 10, 15 years we are just gonna all live in this virtual space? I mean,
I think that we're living in a virtual space now. You know, it's not even 10, 15 years from now. I think it's just, the matter, the thing that will change will be the degree to which we live in that virtual space. But I think, for example, if you look at 2021, I mean, this is, we live in a virtual space a lot more than we used to live in 2019, right? And it's because of the pandemic.
well,
But
yeah, sure.
it's, I don't think it's, I don't think it's gonna go away. I think that it's gonna go away to some extent, but I don't think it's gonna go away completely. I think a lot of these, habits that we've formed, I mean, they're gonna continue. You know, like, a lot of the things that we start doing, like this is one of them. You know, like Zoom. But
Mhm.
we do it. I'm really glad that we can do this in a constructive way. But just, Zoom is one example of it. More, social media, more, working from home, more, home entertainment. Actually, I wouldn't even say that I read the article, but I kind of like just glanced at it, because it was an article that I saw on my smartphone today. It was
Mhm.
about, how the Great Depression changed things in terms of the habits that people had at home
Mhm.
because they didn't have to work, right? Because they were unemployed, so they spent a lot more time at home. And the closest thing that has happened like that is it's been the pandemic, right? A lot of people unemployed, but also a lot of people, in this case, even more so, because you had to stay at home in some places, right?
Yeah, history repeats itself in
Yeah,
some
history
peculiar,
repeats
peculiar
itself.
manners. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a parallel. I hadn't thought about the Great Depression, but it's true. Yeah, there is a parallel there. Usually the parallel that we make is with the, what's it called, the Spanish flu, in
Mhm.
terms of healthcare or a health problem, but in terms of like the actual habit of people, I guess the Great Depression is a better, parallel, because yeah, it's the latest example of, people just staying at home, and having to do their stuff at home because they couldn't go to work. There was no work in a lot of places, and they're just kind of like unemployed, idle, they've developed new habits because of that. And we did the same thing now with the pandemic.
100 years ago, they didn't have computers though. And
Yeah, it
staying
was
at home,
different. It
basically,
was different habits. Yeah.
probably reading some newspapers.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I need to go now that we've talked about it. I kind of want to go back and actually read the whole article and see what kinds of habits.
Well, what do you think about this argument that some people worry that online interactions and communication will replace real interactions? And there, like at least in Russia, there are lots of people. If you like concerned that it's evil to communicate online, and you have to have real, connections with people. But yeah, like in my case, there's almost no difference. So in my opinion, when I communicate with somebody on the internet or when I communicate with somebody offline, it's almost the same. And especially like depending, of course, on your aim. If you want like emotional connection and some close relationship, maybe it's not the case. But if you, for example, study language or study something, or some doing some work, it's almost the same. It's like you may reach your purposes faster by communicating online. But
I think, yeah.
Go on.
No, I think I agree with you to a certain extent. I think, like, for example, doing like what we're doing now, we're on Zoom, but I'm seeing you, like I can see you, I can hear you, so it's, and we're having a conversation. So in this case, it's very much like if we were in front of each other in a coffee shop, right? I mean, it would be nicer, I guess, to some extent to have you in front of me in a coffee shop, just because I could, there's a more, it's your body's there, right? My body's there, so it's a little bit different, but obviously, but it's like three-dimensional. But this is a very close approximation of what real life is, like this kind of interaction. But if we were just talking on a Facebook chat, then it's not the same. It's very different. It's not a real human connection, right? I mean, it's a very superficial human connection.
Just typing. I mean, exchanging messages. Exchanging messages is superficial. But yeah, it's like my question was mostly about, like people demonizing online communications.
Mm-hmm.
So they're saying that if you don't have real communications, real conversations, you're just, this online is just bullshit. It's, you shouldn't do that. Otherwise, you are just, a bad person.
Yeah.
And it's almost impossible to argue with these people. I mean, you just start drawing the analogy between this communication and that communication. They just engage in some, they don't have real arguments, but they just tell you that it's like we never communicated that way. It's just new technologies and it's all evil, and people lose the sense of connection. This point was brought when we discussed solitude. And basically, like some people were just saying that even though we have these wide connections with the whole world, we still are alone, and we are, it's like it seems that we have connections, we have all these opportunities to communicate with people, but in reality, we are alone and miserable, and we have no real friends, and blah blah blah. all this.
Yeah. No, I wanna talk about that. That's an interesting thing, but we're getting a lot of static from your microphone.
Okay, I'll try to.
You probably can't hear it, but I can. Can you hear it?
No, I don't hear it.
Okay.
Is it better now?
It seems to be, yeah.
Yeah, probably it's something with wire.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so people were saying that we're lonely even though we have all these internet connections. Is that what we're saying? Okay, and you don't agree with that?
Yeah, and also it's not just lonely, but the whole this, like, it's kind of superficial communication.
Right.
when you communicate with people online, or artificial, or just formal. It's not real. And when you try to argue that it's almost the same as real communication, it looks very hard to defend your argument. Again, it's like if you are convinced in something, it's almost impossible to change your mind
Right.
just by arguing, right? So if you don't like to communicate with people online, if you don't know how to do that, you probably will believe that it's a wrong thing, even though like evidence may be clear that it's not the case.
Right. Well, I don't know if we should talk about it in terms of being good or evil. I don't think this is necessarily a moral problem. I think it's just it's a different kind of problem. It's or a different kind of question. Like I said, I think there are different ways of communicating online. If like for example, I can see it for example in our community, in the philosophy club community. For me, it's very different to have a conversation like this, a conversation on Zoom, or when we have the conversations in a group. Um, this is very much, this is very close to what a real conversation, like an in-person conversation would look like. This is very similar as an experience.
Mhm.
The only difference is that, yeah, I mean, we're not there in person, but we're connecting in the same way. We're connecting in a very similar way as we would in person. For example, when we have the group discussions, to some extent, I even like it more when we do it online. Because it's more. I feel that, like I think we've talked about this before, but right. So in person, I had the problem. I had too many people, and it's hard to have a conversation with too many people.
Mhm.
Online, we have 6 7 people, and people are like paying quite a lot of attention to it. So like it's a very focused discussion, and usually we have a better discussion than we used to have in person because it was just so chaotic, so many people. Also, I think it helps that online, especially at least in our group, um it's one at a time. Like we speak like one at a time, and that is very important in a group conversation when you're trying to imprint like intellectual ideas. When you're trying to have a dialectic, because if not, I mean, it's you can't like follow more than one trend of talk of conversation. So it actually helps because we speak like one person is speaking at a time, right? And then
Mhm.
you can have a proper dialogue, like in Plato's dialogue, you don't have two people talking at the same time,
Mhm.
right? I mean, it's
Mhm.
not it's not something that works really.
Yeah, and like on the internet, it's almost impossible, right? But in a group conversation, when you are in a room, like you might have
Yeah,
not just two people, but five people talking at the same time.
and it would drive me, yeah, it would drive me crazy all the time. But that's what happens in group conversations, that all of a sudden there's one person talking, and then other people start talking at the same time, and then you're not going to follow what everybody's saying at the same time. Like I
Yeah,
would probably.
I also noticed that for some people it also may be kind of problem because they may be shy or they just don't know how to jump into the conversation and just there are two, three, four people talking and others just listening without being able to really participate in the conversation.
Yeah.
So it's like on one side it's good that there's just one person talking, but on the other side, for those who like who can talk, it may be
Yeah.
not
No, I
boring, but
understand. Yeah, but
yeah.
there are pros and cons. But then, so my point, yeah, I guess I got a little bit derailed. So what I was saying is that kind of conversation is better, right? Not better, but it's pretty much like an in-person conversation. It fulfills the same needs. It kind of like checks the same boxes. But what doesn't happen is, like, for example, when we have conversations in the chat, which you haven't really like engaged in the chat.
Yeah, I don't spend lots of time on
Yeah,
Facebook and
yeah, no,
social
but I
media.
mean, it's not. I mean, it's not really that productive. I feel that a conversation in the chat is generally speaking, I mean, it's not, you're not going to have a good conversation of any type. You know,
Oh, you
it's,
may use it for your own purposes, right? To develop maybe some ideas or to persuade people to do some actions. But
yeah,
for a conversation, yeah, probably it's not a good tool.
it's a
I,
terrible tool for an actual conversation, though,
I
you know?
agree.
Like maybe if you're having a conversation with one person one on one, may, you know, that could possibly work, right? Uh, but when you have several people in a chat, then you're just not. It doesn't really work properly. Like for a
Hmm.
real conversation, it doesn't, like, it doesn't work properly. And so this kind of applies to all like these forums online that are out there, you know, like Facebook stuff. You know, I think really the if we're gonna have conversations online, really this is the way to do it. You know, is like face to face with an
Hmm.
actual voice and an
Hmm.
image, and then we can start having we can approximate what real life is. And
Yeah, here I guess we have interaction, right? So just communicate, but in chat it's more like you watch a video, make a comment, uh, then watch another video, make a comment. So it's not even a conversation. It's more like you get some information, then you make a response, then you get another information. But for me, well, I perceive it more. It's like maybe it's kind of surreal. But when I watch a video, and then I learned language mostly by self talk.
mhm,
So I was just watching videos, then just talking to myself, trying to understand what I watched and explain it and like put it in my own words. And it looks like you have a conversation. Like even though you don't speak to a person, you watch some short video, then you just start talking, explaining, like maybe arguing with the person, and then
yeah.
you find some ideas or something that you want to learn, and you just type a nuke like maybe some query, and you go on and watch like more videos. And it seems like it like in terms of studying and learning, it works very well.
No, true. Yeah, and it does. It's a double-edged sword, right? I mean, the we are living in a very special time because we are actually living this transformation. Not that many people in the history of mankind have lived through a period of such incredible transformation, and it's not exactly very, I guess, exciting, you know, like this is not like I've been watching like some documentaries like on Netflix. Like this past weekend, I watched this amazing documentary about pirates. Now that's a lot more exciting, you know, like if you're a pirate, you know, you're in the high seas, you know, that was a more exciting lifestyle
Oh,
than,
for pirates maybe, but for peasants, for example, I don't think they experienced lots of excitement that time, or for those who were just
no, yeah, if you're a
they're
peasant or a slave, it wasn't, I mean, it
yeah,
wasn't exciting at all.
yeah. I think like in every time when you live, like there's always some innovations. Well, at least as we see during the history, right? So you may just go in every century and read books, and people write just, oh, this is like never occurred before. This is new era. This is like enlightenment, renaissance, like
Yeah,
postmodernism, modernism, whatever. But no, like I consider like the internet, for example, is so great opportunity in terms of like when you think about it, like the internet as a collective mind. So you basically may interact with it, like taking like everything what you get from the internet, like some kind of feedback, and what you put there, it's also like what how you contribute to it. It's like the whole thing is just one big hive
it's true.
where
Yeah,
you may just take something that you need for life and before, of course, like if you want to communicate with people, especially if you don't have real connections, if you are just nobody, you can't just do anything. You can't write, you can't you can't you can find anybody who will teach you, who will like do uh, all all stuff for you. But now you don't need to pay anything. You just go on the internet, whatever you want to learn, just type a question, endless lectures, endless source of information, whatever you
true.
want to study, any language, like, and then you may develop connections with people, right? So you
Yeah,
may
no,
just
I mean it's like I was saying before, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because there are bad things and there are good things, but certainly there are good things. You know, just as certain as there are bad things, there are also good things for like what you're saying. Certainly a good thing that there are so many learning opportunities. There are so many learning opportunities on the internet these
Yeah,
days.
but the flip side again, that you learn something, then you begin to exploit people. You learn how to manipulate, how to sell some, shit them, uh,
Yeah, but
and and again, there's like few people who just put information there, and endless people who just who consume information, right? So the problem is like who you are. Are you a consumer, or are you a like are you a producer, or producer? I don't think it's a
well,
relevant
you could
word
say
here.
producer. Yeah, sure. I mean, that's what they call
Consumer.
them. If it's a movie or a TV show, they're
Yeah,
the
yeah,
producers.
but consumer, like what's the opposite for consumer?
I don't know. I
What's the
mean,
opposite word?
I think producer is fine. Like in the for
Oh,
TV,
creator.
yeah,
Probably,
creators. I
yeah.
think what they use on YouTube, like the
Yeah.
creators. That's what they call people that create, are the creators on YouTube. But YouTube is an interesting example of how you're a consumer, and you're also a creator, right? I mean, I didn't use YouTube all that much before I became a creator like recently. I mean, late last year. Uh, it didn't seem that appealing to me. I guess I would use it off and on, YouTube, but I didn't use it a lot. Um, Now I use it more, but I like it more in this way, like that I'm a creator on YouTube,
Mhm.
and then I'm also a consumer. So I can use YouTube to see things, but also to create my own things. And that's what's kind of cool about YouTube, is that you can play this role, right? That you're creating your own content as well as consuming other people's content.
That's just mind-boggling. Like I wish
Yeah,
I
it's
wish I
something that
learned that. I
it's
wish I learned that 2008 or 2005
Me
when
too.
YouTube
Me
just
too.
came
I feel that
out.
I feel that I've
no,
wasted so much time,
no,
because I could have been creating things,
no, I was thinking with great contempt about YouTube, like 2008, 2009. I remember I already started reading books, and there were some, talks about YouTube, and some people told that you may learn something on YouTube, and I was like writing and arguing with these people, saying that YouTube is just, some bunch of videos, just
Yeah.
uploading stupid videos. You would never
Well,
find anything
it's
there.
it,
But
and it
yeah, but later, 2013, 14, I started watching lectures from different universities, and I was so just overwhelmed by the opportunities that YouTube provides, and most really serious people started uploading there. Like as you said before about Netflix, right? There's a quality content, and on YouTube mostly it's like trash. But
Mhm.
if you really know what you need, like there are also the quality content on YouTube,
Yeah.
and
And I think to some extent you were right back then, to some extent, because I think quality content came later on YouTube. I'm not a YouTube historian, but I mean it's fairly obvious,
no, no, no. It was there. Like now I watch lectures like from 2008, from
well,
2009.
but it
Yeah,
wasn't there.
yeah.
It wasn't
No, no,
there
they
as
were there.
much
There
as
were.
now, but not as much as now, right?
Yeah, of course, but they were
Yeah.
published like 2008,
Yeah, some
2009.
some of them, yeah, some of them, but a lot of stuff came later. I mean that's my impression, at least. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think a lot of the good stuff, because I think a lot of people thought, the way you did and I did,
Yeah,
we weren't
yeah,
quite aware,
yeah.
of this platform. And I mean, I
Yes, that's
remember
it. I guess.
vividly, like
Yeah.
now people share YouTube stuff with me. It's interesting stuff a lot of the times, like if Vladimir shares something with me, I'll watch it. It's going to be something about philosophy or something like that. Chances are in 2010, if someone shared like a YouTube thing with
Yeah.
me, it would be like some silly thing about some cat or something, like it's or some sort of animal, or some sort of like some person getting hurt in a funny way or something. It wasn't the same. It was much more like a silly thing than now. Now people, oh look, I can give you this lecture, read it, or I guess not read it, but watch it.
Mhm.
Um, it's like sharing like essays or books almost, if you're into the intellectual level, in intellectual stuff on YouTube, because but instead of reading a book, you're watching something and trying to learn, right? There's certainly a lot of good content now.
I think almost the same but with social media, it's a little bit different. But I also remember this impression thousand, like when it only like the time it occurred, like not Facebook. We didn't have Facebook here. We had Одноклассники, VK, like our social networks, and it was again contempt. Like all people just make selfies, upload lots of photos, like with uh, likes each other. What's the hell is going on?
Yeah, I
But
mean
then,
that still exists. That
yeah,
still exists, but now you have other stuff as well.
yeah. But now I'm there. And it's no longer this like silly thing. I will go every day on Facebook and VK, and I don't feel like I'm doing something stupid. But back in the days, I was always like people who click every hour, like on their VK page or Facebook page, just waste time.
And yeah, and a lot of people still, pretty much still waste time doing those things that are silly, but it's like what we're saying, it's like a double-edged sword. Um, but it's an interesting transformation. I think this idea that you were talking about before of the hive mind,
Mhm.
uh, that's really what the internet has become. And well, this is
Yeah,
just the beginning, really. I mean, right? So in the future, we're probably just gonna access this stuff in a. It's probably gonna be like wired to our brain or something like that.
yeah, just neurons, right? Like
I don't know
in the
how it's
brain.
gonna work, but I think I
No,
think
it's like if
Elon
it's a
Musk has a company that is, if I'm not mistaken, either he has a company or he has some
yeah,
sort of project.
Neuralink,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know much about it, but and I'm sure
There's a
they're
great article. There's a great article. It's called Neuralink and Brain Magic Future by Tim Urban.
okay.
If you're interested in
I am
Neuralink,
interested. Yeah, that would be
yeah,
interesting.
you may read this. I wrote this article when I started studying language, 2017, and it was like published there at this year. I discovered it, and it just 100 pages. It took me like to rewrite it. It was kind of exercise, so I was like rewriting one page a day for 15 minutes just to train my writing skill. And I was
Cool.
impressed and like started figuring out what was going on with this, brain machine interface. And well, but back in the days, I was so much impressed, and I was, walking and talking to people that, oh, we're all gonna live like in 2020, we're all gonna live in this virtual reality. But now it's 21, and still, well, things change, but not on like not too much. But
I don't know if they haven't changed too much, Vladimir, because they have changed quite a bit from in the last 10 years.
no,
Uh,
I'm talking about the last, like, in my personal experience, what was there 2017 and what's going on right now. There are no big change. There is a
17.
change. 2017, like
Well,
4 years
17
ago.
wasn't that long ago. But
No, I would.
if you go
Yeah, but
back to 2011,
yeah,
then there
2011. Well, yeah, if you go back to just in 2000 when
well,
the internet,
2001, like just to go back
yeah,
20 years. If you go back to 2001, it has changed dramatically.
it's like new era
Yeah, it
basically.
is. Uh, yeah, I mean, just I don't know if it's a completely new era, but certainly, yes, certainly there's been because in 2001, I mean, social media didn't exist in 2001, or it existed. It was the very beginning of it. It was nothing like what it is today. I don't even know if Facebook exists in 2000.
No, Facebook 2004 came across.
Well, there you go. Before Facebook. I mean, and
Yeah.
Facebook is one of the early ones.
Have you watched Social Network movie?
Yeah, yeah, I've seen it several times. I think three times. I love that movie. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, David Fincher is a. I don't know if you like cinema, but
Yeah,
David.
I watched like all David Fincher's movies, I
Oh
guess.
yeah, I mean, he's certainly one of the best modern filmmakers.
No, Nolan, Fincher, Guy Ritchie.
True. Yeah, a Guy Ritchie, a little bit less, I would say, but yeah, also very good. Yeah.
Tarantino, I remember, like it's from my childhood. Tarantino was kind of one of the most
Well,
favorite.
Tarantino is my favorite.
Tarantino,
Is
yeah.
to me, I mean, in my
But
opinion,
like,
he's the best
yeah,
filmmaker of all time.
yeah,
He's
Pulp Fiction.
he's certainly, in my opinion, he's certainly the best filmmaker of the modern era, whatever that means. But because I don't know what the modern era is in cinema. But like of the like he's a fairly new filmmaker, right? I think his first movie came out in maybe mid '90s. So so I mean he's a very recent one, but he's fantastic. I mean, Tarantino's a genius.
Yeah, basically, like all these movies, just clever dialogues, right? So
Yeah.
why is so cool?
And
People
also
talking. And
Tarantino is interesting because he's a great filmmaker in an era that doesn't really have that many great filmmakers. I mean, cinema has clearly become worse, you know, like there aren't that many good ones out there. And Tarantino is just fantastic. Um, in fact, cinema might be a casualty of this new era. You know, I don't know like to what extent cinema will, maybe it will be a 20th century art form. I'm not really sure it's feasible for films to continue in the 21st century.
no, I think we are going to evolve and kind of not watching movie, but being like in a movie, like and playing a role.
Well, yeah, video
This
games,
kind of
for example.
experience. I think, like if again, kind of metaphysical perspective, that your life is basically a movie. So you just download some. Okay, today I'm Vladimir Svitash, and you just live seven. You perceive it like 70 years, but it's just a movie. Next time you download new programs like Bruno.
Oh
Okay.
wow, yeah, that's an interesting idea. It's kind of
Yeah.
like Inception,
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Inception. That's sort of what they did, right? They would live an entire life, and
Yeah.
they would.
Inception is like most like mystical. This lucid dreaming.
No, yeah, yeah, but one of the
Like,
interesting idea Inceptions, there's so much about it, but one of the cool things that there's a scene in particular, and I think I might have seen Inception just one time, so it was a long time ago. But I remember my favorite scene in the movie was when he was saying like, "Hey, we had this dream, and we lived a whole lifetime, and it's
mhm,
like
mhm.
50 years,
Yeah.
50 years I've been with this woman, and we lived this beautiful." But it was really just a couple of minutes,
Yeah.
like,
The
and
the
I was like
dream.
blown away. Imagine that, imagine like being in a reality that you live your whole life, with someone or by yourself, whatever life it is, but you live a whole life, and and then you can go back and live another
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
because that
It's like
was really only just a
it's
couple
like
of minutes.
it's like to push a button, like pause, and then
Yeah, it's like pausing. Yeah.
in a few seconds you have life experience, and then you continue go on, and there's like you push a button. I guess it's kind of God state, like
Yeah, it's a little bit like being God. Yeah.
yeah. So interesting.
Yeah, that is a very, and that's really what I retained from the movie. I mean, I remember there was a lot of other things, but I remember I think it's one scene that they're talking about that, and it's.
Yeah, I'm referring mostly like not to this movie, but to Black Mirror. Have you watched Black Mirror?
Oh yeah, I've seen all of them. I've seen all of
Yeah, it's like
the
some
episodes.
device that you put here, and you just get in a different world where you're just a new person, or just like this
Yeah.
idea with cookies when they get your consciousness, put it in something, and then there's like 100 years just in few seconds, and you remember this episode, the white Christmas, I guess it
I
was
don't
called.
remember that episode.
The first where this idea of cookies was introduced. Like this,
I,
there
I've
was this,
I've seen it because I've seen all of them, but I don't remember it.
well, there's this woman. She just took her consciousness and put it in an egg, and this
Okay.
guy came and said, like, you are like, I'm explaining you what you need to do. You just need to turn on the light, control the temperature, and if you not agree, just 100 years of solitude.
Oh,
you
I
know
I think I remember now. Yeah, I think I remember now. Yeah.
Yeah, stop, wait.
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember that one now. Yeah.
Yeah, first she wanted to protest, but then like, okay, I'll do whatever whatever you say.
True. Yeah. No, I remember that episode.
Yeah, imagine that you're like yourself in this situation, like 100 years or just infinite time sitting alone without being able to do anything, with no change. I think it's impossible, but
It
still, like
would be, yeah,
as an idea,
it would be tough, man.
you may think about reality as a whole. Like if you are not Bruno, but if you're just the whole reality, it may perceive itself like what am I doing here? Like it's just endless, endless nothing. Kind of
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah, it's tricky, man. It would certainly be tricky.
You may fool yourself believing that you're Bruno, you're Vladimir, you're somebody else. But then, for the reality, it's like this image or picture or meme which was posted recently on the group page.
Hmm.
There's reality fooling itself that it's individuals. I don't know. Do you remember this post?
No, I
I
don't.
guess it was posted by Crack or
Okay, I maybe I haven't seen it.
quite recently, maybe a week ago or a few weeks ago.
I think I missed that one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. Well, it's we're I think maybe we can talk for a little bit more, like 5 minutes or so, and then
Hmm.
maybe we can
It's almost an hour already, right? So time passes so
yeah, it's
fast.
been almost an hour, yeah. So is there anything else you wanna talk about before we um start thinking about ending it?
Yeah, I'd like to ask you some questions about foolishness.
Sure, yeah.
Like, so if you have a discussion about foolishness, what would you ask? What are you interested in? Like this topic?
And sorry, remind me again, is foolishness your topic
Yeah,
for
it's
this week for your conversation group?
for the next club.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So is it foolishness and what's the other one?
and space. It's
Space.
like
Okay.
two
Yeah.
different clubs, two different
Yeah.
topics.
Because you have two right now, right? Two
Yeah,
conversation groups in Russia.
yeah. And it's like
Foolishness.
it's like most people are the same, but at different locations, and some different people come there.
Okay.
One is so I just making questions. I
Okay. About foolishness.
Yeah, it's not so easy to come up immediately with a question.
With a
I
question
understand.
for
Like
foolishness. Oh man, you should have
you
asked me that before we
yeah,
started.
for me, I actually I've noticed kind of pattern. So whenever I pick a topic and I start making questions, at first like 5-10 minutes, I can't come up with anything. But then
Sure.
suddenly just one question, and it entails just the whole bunch of questions, and I just write 10-15 questions in 10-15 minutes.
Yeah,
But
I can relate to that. I can relate
yeah,
to that.
but to come up with the first question is that take 5 or 10 minutes, and you just try to just basically focus your attention on the topic and see what you really want to know about that, and how you may build the conversation, some contradictions, some hot points.
Well, I
I
can
think
think
it's
I
definitely a part. Yeah, go on.
I can't think of one question necessarily. Like one idea that I think is interesting, and this is not my idea, it's your idea. But
Mhm.
I don't know if you're planning on using it, but that story that you told me in the beginning, I don't know
Mhm.
if we were recording already. I think we were. But the story about the foolish guy and the whale and all that, the monk.
Mhm.
I think that is, I don't know, are you going to use that? Because I think that's like a very cool way of opening a conversation about
Oh,
food.
I told this story last time when we discussed solitude. Yeah.
I like that for foolishness, though.
Uh-huh.
I think it's a good idea for foolishness because it's,
I'll probably open it like with assuming that foolishness is part of our life, and often, like not often, but maybe often, we all behave like fools. And so the question, like the first question is how can we not be fools, and how we can recognize fools in ourselves.
well, that's really good. I think I like that question a lot. How can we recognize this foolishness in ourselves? I think that's a really good one. I also like because I like foolishness. I compare it to being wise, right? So you have the fool and the wise man, or
Yeah.
let's just say foolishness and wise, or wisdom. I don't know. but those, you get what I'm saying. Those are the two opposites. Like something about comparing those two things, like what makes people fools and what makes people wise, right? I think that's an interesting conversation to have, and it's very much at the center of philosophy. That's exactly,
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
center of philosophy,
yeah.
precisely at the like philosophy in the Greek sense,
Well,
right?
I would say to this question that every fool who is aware that he is fool becomes immediately a wise person. And
I don't know if he'll become a wise person, but he'll certainly be less of a fool.
I guess it's yeah. You start from there, so you realize, oh, I'm a fool. Okay, first you
I,
admit that, and then you grow, and you.
I think that is I like that idea a lot that you just brought up. I think that's extremely powerful. I think that and I think about this quite a bit. There is a lot of people, and they might necessarily be the biggest fools, but like we have a problem, and I don't know if it's something that is um uh, like specific to a certain society or a certain group. I'm not really sure, but maybe it's a human thing, but it's this thing that you have people that think that they're wise, but they're
Mhm,
really not wise, that they think they, and you can either say this in an absolute way, like this man thinks he's wise but he's not wise, or you could say that in about like little things, like little aspects of life that
so
people,
not about their identity, but about their actions or just
yeah,
opinions
or just about
which
their
they
ideas,
hold.
this
Yeah.
general notion that they know things when in fact
Hmm.
they don't, or they know little, and they think they know a lot, or they know
Hmm.
all, some of the like uh they're not the most stupid people, but some
Yeah, yeah.
some stupid people that I've come across in my life, and I continue to come across in my life. They have this notion that they know all, or that they know very much about things, and
Hmm.
when in fact they do not know. They certainly do not know all, and it is very disputable that they know very much. In fact, they probably know very little. They just know they just no, sorry, they just think that they know. Oh,
Yeah.
it's
So I
not
guess
really
it's
like, it's a false sense of knowledge. It's a false sense of
a
accomplishment.
lack of self-awareness and like real lack of like big picture or realization what's going on and being like convinced. I guess this refers to prejudices and superstitions which we and other people have, right? That, oh, okay, this is like I know this thing because I have this experience and I have this knowledge and I read these books and I watch these videos, these lectures, but it's never like you may know, but you at the same time when your knowledge like it's about only about you, it's one thing, but when you communicate with other people, right, this what you describe, it basically refers to like in my like opinion, it's basically about communication, and when you know better than the person knows about something and you see how limited their opinions or views are, but you still can't communicate with them and explain that this is the case because they argue with you and trying to like maybe put you down or develop their own superior moral superiority, whatever.
Yeah.
So the whole idea again, it's like it's about comparison between different 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 like
Yeah,
knowledge.
I agree. I think like these are just some ideas, right? To because you asked me about foolishness, but these are like just some notions that come to mind. Yeah, like to me, this idea of the fool is in a sense, the fool is not a complete fool, yeah, but there's a foolishness thinking that you are wise when in fact you are not, this is the foolishness that annoys me the most,
Yeah.
like
Also, interesting question: how to deal with fools? That's that must be one. So, all like most people who are kind of well-known wise people, some philosophers. They suggest don't argue with fools, don't interact with fools. But in our modern world or contemporary world, right, it's like it's almost impossible. You have to
Well,
learn
you have
how.
to interact with fools. It's
Yeah, you can
impossible not to.
you can just avoid.
Yeah,
You may avoid. You may sit like go in cave and sit there for
yeah. I mean, it
the
might
rest
be a
of
good
your life.
idea to try to avoid. At some point, like, yeah, you can't like avoid them completely. Um, but everybody will have to deal with fools at some point. Even if you're a fool yourself,
Yeah,
doesn't matter if you're
it's
a fool
like
yourself or not. You're gonna deal with fools. It's just inevitable. So you kind of need to know how to navigate things. I don't know. Either you're a fool or not yourself. It's just yeah, it's a complicated question really because I don't know how you engage with fools as a general rule. I think it might depend on a case by case.
well, I'm struggling with this. As I said, this speaking club, it's for 2 years. There are lots of people coming. Like before, since 2017 till 2019, I basically was alone. There are a few people came from time to time, and I never developed. But now, after 2019, it grew in popularity, and there are like 10, 15, 20 people, and quite often I have to deal with lots of fools.
Well, it's
Like
inevitable. Yeah.
no, not I, and it's in my case, it's not offensive. So I'm not trying to offend anybody and say like you're a fool or whatever. But there are lots of people who come and they're obviously like they don't know what's going on. They don't understand what's going on, but they still
Yeah.
think that they know. And
Yeah.
you can't say them like guys. I don't. If you are not welcome, just go out. You need to learn how to make them kind of you know I don't know. Just
Yeah, no, I mean, there's much to talk about that. Yeah, I understand exactly what you mean. I mean,
like
that is something that
make
eh,
them harmless for the group for other people.
exactly. Yeah, you
Yeah,
need to know how to manage that. Yeah, I think anyone who runs some sort of group needs to certainly a discussion group, but like any sort of group, you need to you need to understand how to manage fools. That is kind of like a practical skill for any sort of leader. um yeah. It's a weird way to put it, I guess, but like know how to manage fools. It comes with
yeah. I think it's a good question. I'll ask it.
yeah, it comes with managing people, for sure. Like I'm sure like people that manage people at a job as well. I mean, I'm sure that's you need to
Uh,
know how to manage fools. I mean, that's part of managing people.
yeah, there was one famous politician. I don't remember the name, but basically he said like it was about intellectuals, like interacting with intellectuals one to one. It's cool. Like they're always smart and know what's going on. But as if you bring them together, like in a group, the groups like they become immediately fools. And if you just alone or again interaction with one to one, that's okay. But in a group, a huge crowd immediately becomes a bunch of fools, and you can't do anything with that basically. Or you may do, but
You
it's
may
like
not be wrong. You may not be
yeah,
wrong.
takes lots of practice and experience. Anyway, I think that's the good time to
Yeah,
stop here. Yeah.
that's awesome. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll be back soon enough.